A generation ago, quiet fell over the buildings on this piney hillside in the Ouachita Mountains of western Arkansas. The coughs and screams from patients undergoing torturous operations were silenced by modern medicine. This was once a bustling hospital where thousands of sick women, men, and children came for rest and treatment of a disease that had no cure. But the open-air sleeping porches are gone, and the buildings that remain serve as a rotting monument to a time when people lived in fear of the Great White Plague. From 1910 to 1972, people diagnosed with TB came to Boonville, Arkansas by the carload, sometimes in handcuffs, because state law mandated that victims of tuberculosis be isolated at the sanatorium where they could not spread their germs on the rest of society. The Boonville Sanatorium was one of the largest TB treatment centers in the world, housing more than 5,000 patients in peak years. Some who came here eventually returned home, free of the symptoms that had once ravaged their bodies. But others died here, either of the disease or of the morbid treatment prescribed by the doctors. Not much is left from those days, except the memories of Sanatorium Hill.
It literally, for 2 centuries, killed 1/4 of all the people who died of this one bug.
It was a plague, and it was a great dread. And if you didn't die, you were left mightily harmed, and your lifestyle was changed forever.
People died all around me. And I remember thinking that that's why I was here, that I came here to die.
What's that?
That, my dear young man, is a picture of the germ that causes tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis?
TB to you.
Tuberculosis is a disease that is caused by a germ and is spread through the air.
This is a germ that really has been in existence pretty much from the beginning of time.
About 1/3 of the Earth's population are infected with the TB germ. And 10% of that third will develop tuberculosis. So it's still the single largest cause of death in the world from an infectious disease. And in some parts of the world, it's by far the most common cause of death in many countries, even today. You know, the old term for this was consumption, so that the body was just slowly consumed. And these symptoms would be very insidious in onset, and after 2 or 3 months, perhaps, you clearly know that something's, this is not just a chest cold that I can't get over. This is more than that.
By the late 1800s, consumption was the leading cause of death in the United States. The disease preyed on young people in the prime of life. Victims of TB lost weight and energy. They began to cough and then to spit up blood. Finally, the disease consumed the entire body, rotting human tissue.
And I felt kind of a tickle and kind of like that, and blood just poured out of my nose, and I ran to the bathroom and just coughed up big ropes of the stuff, and nearly, I thought I was going to bleed to death, and nearly drowned in my own blood. And of course, I knew exactly what it had to be at that time.
The fatigue is such that you can't, going to bed doesn't help, doesn't dispel the fatigue. So you're tired whether you're sitting up or lying down or whatever you're doing.
Not knowing what to do and concerned about the spread of the disease, chronic care hospitals for the treatment of patients of TB began to spring up around the country. Almost always, they were located in rural areas where there was plenty of open space and fresh air. These isolation camps became known as sanatoriums, from the Latin word which means to heal.
In those days, I don't suppose more than 20 or 30% of patients who entered a sanatoria ever gravitated back to a normal existence.
Arkansas opened its sanatorium in the small, isolated town of Boonville in 1910 after receiving an $80,000 appropriation from the state legislature for buildings and maintenance. In the beginning, a few hastily constructed frame buildings housed 64 beds for patients with minimal and moderately advanced cases of tuberculosis. The treatment was simple: total bed rest.
And strict bed rest means that you don't get up. I ate laying down. Wrote my letters laying down. I brushed my teeth laying down.
I know the patients, they stayed out on what's called verandas. They had rooms, and that they went in, but their beds was all out here on a screened-in veranda, and it was lots of times it'd be snowing right through them screens right on them. See.
As the TB epidemic spread, the Boonville Sanatorium grew in size, eventually becoming a self-contained city. Everything the patients needed was available inside the hospital walls.
You could buy little supplies there, personnel supplies mostly, and a few other little things. And of course they had their own post office. It was State Sanatorium, that was the name of it. It was, their mail come as State Sanatorium, Arkansas, see.
In the 1930s, the most influential patient was State Senator Leo Nyberg. From his hospital bed, Nyberg lobbied hard for a building campaign that would turn this sanatorium from a place of rest into a medical center for surgeries that today seem curiously gruesome.
If you see the picture of the operating room, how bare it is, no respiratory stuff, no life-sustaining equipment of any kind, not even an EKG, nothing, just the operating table and the light, and that's about it, and the cabinet with the instruments. And so what they did, I asked the nurse, I said, what'd y'all do when I went into shock? So we tilt the table down with your head down so the blood would run to your brain and you wouldn't get brain damage.
The earliest operations were called pneumothorax, which involved collapsing a lung.
By means of this operation, the diseased lung is compressed, allowed to rest.
Rest was thought to be the thing. And inasmuch as it was the lung that was involved, the idea was to put it at rest. And they thought that putting air through the chest wall and into the lining around the lung, that it would collapse the lung and therefore let it rest, and then you'd breathe with the other lung.
And of course they have us laying on our good side, and this has got an incision from here to here and got a thing like a little hole that goes under the shoulder blade tied to a rope, and down and pull your shoulder blade and pull it shoulder out of joint and get to those ribs then underneath there. And that you feel like there's a safe laying on your side. The pressure just gets so great, I think, man, it's just going to mash me to death, you know.
The other method was putting ping pong balls in and letting the lung collapse and keeping the rib cage without removing the ribs, and putting ping pong balls in between the rib cage and the lung and keeping the lung collapsed. And sometimes the space would get infected and you'd have to do a multiple orchidectomy, remove all the balls, as it was described. But they were very traumatizing operations. It was the era of heroic surgery for TB.
One of the most bizarre of all the operations was the removal of the phrenic nerve. Like the other surgical procedures, this practice was common and painful.
Oh, that's just like pulling a raw tooth. It hurt, but it was quick and over with. But they'd reach in here in the neck and cut it out, or cut it in two and pull it out, and come from your diaphragm all the way out.
Reach in with the forceps and they pull up something and say, where's that hurt? And you keep telling, you know, and so And then finally you say, "Ah, right there," and they say, "That's it." So they clip it at one end and pull it out. It looks like a piece of spaghetti. Wow. Wow. You know. And of course, every once in a while, someone would come down and say, "I didn't holler." And later on, I got to dating one of the girls that works in the operating room, and she told me, said, "Nobody has ever had it that didn't holler." They've all hollered on that one, you know.
So I wouldn't want to say that these doctors were different than any other doctors, but they were doing their best. It seemed reasonable, and that was the way medicine was practiced at the time. Now looking back, I'm pretty sure that none of these surgical procedures could be proven scientifically to have been of value.
Surgeries involve taking out ribs, pumping fresh air into the lungs, and removing parts of the lung. The survival rate among patients having surgery was about 50%.
While they were stripping, maybe the second or the third rib, that overholt slipped off the rib and tore a place and tore into my pleural cavity there. And I heard something. I heard it sounded like some kind of an animal being killed. Scream and just the worst damn sound I ever heard. And it just went on, and then a little bit it sort of, I guess the pain let up or something, and I realized it was me doing the screaming.
Death was an ever-present part of life at the sanatorium. The newsletter, the Sanatorium Outlook, kept a detailed record of the monthly obituaries.
We had a morgue there at the sanatorium, and it was somebody died there almost every day.
You would hear the sound of somebody dying. You'd hear the gurgling sound. There'd be a rush of nurses and doctors going down the hall, and they would go by your door. And sometime after that, they began the process of closing all the doors. And you would hear it in the distance, and you would hear that first door slam. Then across the hall, you would hear the other door slam. And they'd work their way down the hall, and finally they would come to my room and close my door. And then you try to judge the distance by how many doors they closed past that. And that gave you some idea of where the incident had happened. And I would lie on the floor and look under the door. And of course, you're limited by what you can see, but you can see feet going by. You'd hear the sound of gurney wheels. Now, these floors were immaculate. They were white and clean. The wheels would flop. They would wiggle, and you could hear it coming down the hall. And then it would get quiet. And then when the wheels came back, they made a different sound. They made a squeaking sound. And that was the sound that the gurney made with a body on it.
I have personal family experiences there. My uncle, who was 28 at the time, developed tuberculosis when I was age 16. I drove him to the sanatorium. He was married, he had 3 young boys, and it was almost like a death sentence. I can remember driving away from his home and his wife and 3 boys waving goodbye and wondering if they'd ever see him again. He really, really hated to go. He died in the sanatorium, and that hurt me a lot.
It was depressing, but at the same time, everybody there was doing the same thing that you were. They were there for the same purpose, and that was try to regain their health. And it was kind of frightening because as a child I'd always heard that anybody that had tuberculosis was, you know, almost ready for death.
Life at the sanatorium for children and adults was often monotonous. One day was just like the day before and the day after.
And when my sister and my friends came to see me, they said, you know, they were horrified. They said, well, how long do you have to stay in this bed? And I said, at least a year. Well, a year. They just couldn't believe it.
I often use the phrase that every day of my life was a Tuesday. And people ask me why Tuesday, and because Tuesday is so routine.
When patients began to feel better and regain their energy, they were allowed to exercise, read, and watch movies.
I'm talking about Christmas fields, and you're talking about the kind of fields that lives up in Alaska.
Listening to the radio was everyone's favorite pastime.
Lum and Abner. Oh man, everybody, we'd all put our radios on Lum and Abner, and well, you could hear it all over the hill, Lum and Abner every day, you know, 5 days a week.
Well, Abner, I ain't said nothing yet, but I'm sort of aiming on asking Miss Rowena to be Mrs. Eddard. Your mother? No, silly, my wife.
I'd wake up hurting or wouldn't even get to sleep maybe till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember one morning I was awake about 3 o'clock. I had a great big fine radio. It sounded good. And I was listening to music and the Three Sons played Twilight Time. Oh man. Oh, it touches me to hear it now. And my thought was, man, it's wonderful to be alive. And going to be alive. Going to get well.
Well, we did listen to the radio a lot. We used to, you know, somehow guys and girls kind of get to know each other, and there had to be a little flirting going on, and maybe writing to a station and, you know, dedicate a song to somebody, or just anything to keep from being totally bored out of your mind.
The most fun that I can think of was when we would get hungry and we'd send to town to get hamburgers. That was a real treat. And we'd just sit in the middle of the bed and laugh and drink Cokes and turn on the radio and just have fun being young.
I didn't have any money. I would write home, and I remember every letter said exactly the same thing. Dear folks, how are you? Fine, I hope. Please send me $1. I would spend my entire dollar buying bottled Coca-Colas. And the men would put them in their windows. I suppose it chilled them 2 degrees, you know. But I'd spend my $1 and I'd buy Cokes and I'd set them in the window.
Throughout its early history, the Boonville Sanatorium was segregated. Only white patients were allowed to come here. There was a separate TB hospital in central Arkansas for African Americans, but the McRae Sanatorium only had 1 doctor for 400 patients. At Boonville, men and women patients were not allowed to socialize. They lived in separate quarters and ate their meals at different times. Sexual contact of any kind was strictly forbidden.
Of course, the dining rooms where the patients come to the dining room, the men would come at 1 hour or one particular time. The ladies would come at another time. Dr. Riley didn't allow them to come at the same time, see, because he didn't want any love making or any romances started while they were patients, see.
Even the school children were segregated from one another. The boys had their school time and the girls had theirs. The only time the 2 sexes were allowed to get together was for dance lessons.
And there where the twain shall meet, we had different playgrounds. We couldn't even play together.
Children of the sanatorium went to school year-round with no summer vacation. Classes were held in the basement of the Masonic building, where all the kids lived.
We read. I think the major part of our time was spent reading, or being read to, because it's easy to keep a bunch of kids quiet if you'll sit down and read to them.
For children and adults, separation from family was an emotional hardship. For some patients, the last they saw of their relatives was the day they moved into the sanatorium. Holidays were like every other day, isolated from loved ones back home.
Somebody somewhere brought me some wrapped Christmas presents and had left them in a room. And of course, you know, when you're that young, you're excited about Christmas. And I think within 30 seconds after they left the room, I got up and closed my door and turned the bathroom light on, because if I turned the hall light, or the room light on, they could see me. So I turned the bathroom light on and I opened all my Christmas presents. And I can remember spending my first Christmas up here, sitting in the middle of that floor, you know. And I thought, boy, this is great. You know, this is the answer to a kid's prayer.
It was a solemn place. There were a lot of people like myself coming in and being separated from family, from children. Their children having to go home crying, and that hurt.
Laverne Nelson of the University of Arkansas has conducted more than 60 oral history interviews with survivors of the Boonville Sanatorium.
Each interview was filled with drama when you looked for it.
After reading several obituaries in the Boonville newspaper of former sanatorium residents, Laverne decided to record the memories of the living while there was still time. One of the most heart-wrenching was her interview with Jo Bell Shrillo, whose mother fell ill with TB and moved into the sanatorium when Jo Bell was 9 years old.
Now, where did this take place? Where did you live when your mother became ill?
My family lived in St. Paul, which is in Madison County.
And even though she was gravely ill, Jo Bell's mom wrote humorous poems about her sickness, trying to ease the fears of her little girl back home.
A nasty little TB bug has made its home in me. It jumps around inside my chest in ecstasy and glee. I haven't quite decided what kind of dance it does, but every time it hops and skips, I ain't the gal I was. The doctor fills me up with air to drive the thing away, but seems to me it likes its home and is content to stay.
On Christmas Day, 1937, a year after she entered the sanatorium, Mamie Maybelle Thomas died of tuberculosis at the age of 36.
But my sadness is not for me, it's for her. That's the tragic part of it.
In the 1950s, doctors began to use a combination of drugs to treat people with tuberculosis. Unlike the prescriptions of total bed rest and collapsing the lungs, this medicine quickly began to cure the Great White Plague. At first, drugs were administered at the sanatoriums, but by the late 60s, patients began being treated with TB-killing drugs in regular hospitals and then sent home. The need for the sanatorium ceased to exist. In 1972, the Boonville Sanatorium closed its doors to TB patients, becoming a state-operated home for the developmentally disabled. The patients who survived the sanatorium have moved on to a world very different from the one they experienced at this state-operated, isolation camp for victims of consumption. But while their disease is gone, their memories remain of the pain and suffering, hope and despair of life at Sanatorium Hill.
I can see parents happy with grown-up children, parents who in the old days would have died an early death. I can really see this ancient misery disappearing.
How about a cookie and a cool drink?
Oh, thank you, dear.
Oh, Mother, Daddy has just told us another of his wonderful stories. And when we are all grown up, our children are not going to get tuberculosis, are they, Daddy?
No, indeed, my dear.
This program was supported in part by a grant from the Arkansas Humanities Council and the Department of Arkansas Heritage, and by the University of Arkansas, a nationally competitive, student-centered research university serving Arkansas and the world.